lonestar.com/TBPTX.
Thank you for listening to Lone Star Community Radio. This program was broadcasted and recorded live from the LSCR studios in downtown Conroe, Texas. Lone Star Community Radio is supported by listeners like you. Donate and sponsor today. For more information on getting involved with Lone Star Community Radio, contact us at lscrstudios@gmail.com or visit us online at www.irlonestar.com.
You are listening to Lone Star Community Radio on 104.5 KCZWLP Conroe and 106.1 KZCCLP Conroe, and worldwide on irlonestar.com.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. This is Rick Schissler, and I'm a host for the Weekly Business Hour. And I want to thank you right up front for joining us. I think we put a good show together today for you, and I hope you'll just push back, pull out your pen and pencil or your computer, and get ready to take some notes. Today, we're broadcasting live from the studios of Lone Star Community Radio, which is located in Conroe, Texas, which is one of the fastest growing cities in our entire country. First question of the day, I always start off the program with a question. And my question is, how about 8.5%? Going once, going twice. Is this as high as inflation will go? That's a question on many people's minds right now. Business people, as well as individuals in their household budget. I don't have a crystal ball. I don't know the answer. But what I do know, if you own a business, you need to be dealing with inflation, not just reacting to it, but planning to deal with it. First, review your cost structure. Be sure that your cost structure, the items you're buying, the supplies you're buying, the product you're buying to resell, whatever you're doing in your business, you're buying some things from someone else in most cases. Be sure you understand and are aware of their increases. If you have a good relationship, a lot of times vendors or even distributors will tell you what's coming when they anticipate another price increase, because the price increases right now are a way of life. The other thing is, plan your price increases. Don't just make a decision in the middle of the night because you wake up, you're in a sweat, and you're saying, how in the heck am I going to make any money because my costs keep going up and I just have to raise my price, but I don't want to run people off. And you end up in this never-ending back and forth. Sit down, analyze where you are, and plan your price increases. And I use the plural because I think you may be looking at least a couple this year. So take the time, take a few minutes, pull out a pad and pencil or computer, and put that answer down. Plan it, put a date beside it. You can always push it or move it back, but think about it's my point. And thirdly, my encouragement, don't panic. We know that this will too pass, just like everything in life. The inflation will come, it will go. We can't really, or at least I can't, as I said earlier, can't project where it'll all be, but it will take care of itself. And again, my main encouragement, don't react. Sit down and think about some of these things. Doesn't take a lot of time, but push back, shut the door, and think about what you need to do. That is the way you maximize the profitability, the revenue, all the key factors for your business, not to dismiss the enjoyment of being in business. So encouragement, 8.5%, is that as high as it's going to go? I have no idea. If you lived in the 80s, you saw inflation go to double digits. So it can go higher. It has gone higher. And that's not the only time in our business history in this country that it's gone that high. But be aware of it. You can deal with it. You can get through. This, to me, is part of the fun and the challenge of being in small business. So let's see where it takes us. 8.5, going once, going twice. Don't know if it's got sold at that price or otherwise. The Weekly Business Hour is where businesses throughout Montgomery County and throughout the world now come to talk about business, talk about ideas that can improve their business and be part of conversations that can make a real difference in your business today. So I encourage you, if you're listening to the show and you want to watch as well as listen to us, just go to Facebook or YouTube and pick up on the Weekly Business Hour page. You'll see we're available there on live. Click on the button. You can watch as well as listen. And before we get started, I also want to remind you, email. I'd love to get email from listeners. Got a comment about the show, or you have a question. In fact, I have a mailbag item today that was sent in to us with a business question. Please send your emails. I like to get them. It's simple. Just send your email to onebestconsult@gmail.com. That's the number onebestconsult@gmail.com. Now, let's get started with the show and the reason we're here today. We have a wonderful guest joining us today, Steve Eggert. He's a financial advisor with Edward Jones, and we're going to have a discussion that centers around retirement planning for you as a business owner and your employees. So, Stephen, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. Greatly appreciate it.
Well, I know you've got a background, a lot of information. Let's kind of start out and give the listeners a little bit of background on yourself. What brought you to the point you are as far as being a financial advisor with Edward Jones?
Good question. Thank you much. My story is one of sort of life coming full circle, probably the best way to describe it. You mentioned those wild inflationary times of the late 70s, early 80s. That's as I was beginning my matriculation through college, ending, of course, through the mid-'80s, coming out in that Ronald Reagan era, and sort of being born into a new era of business, if you will. From there, I ventured, of course, into the world of finance, specifically commercial real estate investment finance, and I didn't necessarily anticipate that it was going to last as long, and it ended up being a 10, almost 12-year career. It really helped build a family, build a household. My wife and I got married late 80s, 1989. In fact, she began a career in insurance, and off we went. Lo and behold, a company restructuring, like I said, 10, 11 years later, led to a decision on our part to collectively venture away from what we were doing and become teachers of the subject matter that we had spent the early portion of our business career in. So I became a high school and community college business educator and finance educator. I didn't necessarily anticipate that was going to take me on a 20-year journey, but it did. 20 years later, my wife and I, again, sort of an ironic twist. We're, of course, educators in California, and we had the opportunity to, turn the page to a new chapter and, in essence, not retire, but venture on into a new chapter, a new occupation. I made the decision at that point to get back to what I was doing previously and get back to the world of practicing as a practitioner. That led me to Edward Jones. But uniquely, it also gave me the opportunity to venture into the world of what I like to call retirement finance. Because in California, as a public educator, you can actually begin collecting a pension at age 55, and that's what my wife and I did. So we took what we were learning and are learning and bringing to our clients, and we forged a career out of it. She's also an employee of Edward Jones as well. So long story short, that's what brought me to Edward Jones. 32 years of life in the world of business and finance, enjoying it. I was always that go-to guy at family functions, at the teacher cafeteria at school, where people were coming to me with their 457, 401k, 403b questions. What should I do? And heck, I was doing my best, but again, I was an educator, not a practitioner. This move now to Edward Jones has given me the opportunity to do what I've always wanted to do, of course, which is, again, become that legal practitioner, that licensed practitioner, and really working with clients, household, family, friends, in the world of finance and helping them walk the journey that my wife and I have been proudly walking for some time now.
Now, is Edward Jones what brought you to our area here in Montgomery County?
Absolutely. I didn't necessarily anticipate. I had looked at several firms, and several firms had bona fide opportunities for me. Edward Jones had an opportunity, but it was here in Montgomery County, and that's where I started. I began my training, of course, here in the city of Conroe. It took me to a office location in the Woodlands for a period of time, and once a new branch opened up off 1488 in Kirkendall, right across from the HEB, Edward Jones offered me that opportunity. I jumped at it because it was the unique opportunity for me to run a branch, my branch, a home I could call my own, our own, and really create a sense of home, being for my clients. They love stopping in. And so, yes, to answer your question, came here for family, because my wife's family, she, of course, having been born here in West Texas, it gave us the opportunity to come back. Come back to them. My family had always and still lives in Southern California, but it was a unique opportunity for us to, again, turn the page, come back to them, while at the same time, of course, forging it with our final chapter in our career path, collectively, she and I.
Well, that's a great story. You really do. You have a great business story and how you've leveraged what you started out with, so to speak, in finance, but absolutely in a different field of finance. Mm-hmm. So I think that's really a cool story. Well, before we run out of time here in our first segment, let's kind of jump into some of this retirement, I guess focus on the owner. Right. My experience in my practice of the last 17, 18 years working with small businesses as an advisor consultant, and then being in small business all my life, small business people tend to, for the most part, think of their retirement as their business. In other words, I'm going to sell this business. Now, I may sell it 2 or 3 different times. I've jumped to other businesses. I had 5 businesses that I owned. Mm-hmm. But the last one is where we're going to leverage. And when we sell that, it's going to produce the nest egg, if you will. Mm-hmm. We don't think about any other avenues to prepare us financially for retirement. I personally think that's a mistake. So talk to us a little bit about why the small business owner needs to prepare themselves beyond just their asset, their main asset of their business.
Well, that's a good question. And here's the reason why they need to prepare themselves. They need to prepare themselves because, as you just mentioned, relying on the asset value, the termination value of the business, or in other words, what you think you can get for it at about that time that you're ready to retire, we tend to underestimate the time that it's going to take to get that business sold, and we tend to overestimate what we're going to sell it for by at least a multiple of 2 in both instances, coming and going. We tend to underestimate. It typically takes 5 to 7 years to prep an asset for disposition and then ultimately to close on that asset, where you can ultimately bring those assets into, let's say, for instance, a retirement account, a non-qualified retirement account. And of course, we tend to, and again, I'm not disparaging small business owners. I come from a family of small business owners. As a youngster, I went through this with my father and uncles, who were business partners and very much struggled with this topic. We tend to overestimate by a multiple of at least 2 what we think that we're going to get or pull out of that business upon exit. Typically, we will sell these businesses to a family member or a key employee, and what we're doing in those instances, we're taking on the credit risk of the family member, the key employee, an uncomfortable credit risk, and quite often we're also taking on the cash flow risk of that business as well. Can it, in fact, afford an annuity-ish like payout to the person, of course, who is doing the selling? And it's an infringement on the cash flow of the business as well. It really can be restrictive from the perspective of, hey, I'm paying out this payout to my father, who I've taken this business over from, and it's really crimping my ability, of course, to buy this, to expand my plant, to buy this new piece of equipment, a new marketing campaign, take on more people, et cetera. So it's treacherous, but it can happen. And that, of course, is you can force savings, discipline, in a disciplined fashion, while at the same time, of course, running your business. There is room in cash flow for that to happen. I watched it. I watched my father's business afford the lifestyles of 3 families, 3 large families, while at the same time, at the very least, contributing to a traditional IRA for all 3 of them, and then retirement plans beyond that. Didn't quite get them where they thought they needed to be, but it somewhat came close. There are ways in which we can do it. It all depends upon, and I can expand into this answer right now, or I can wait a bit, but there's 2 ways really you can do it primarily. Does your business have employees? or are you a sole practitioner?
Right.
No employees.
Well, let's do. We're up. Need to take a break. Let the commercial side of the business work. We come back. We'll talk about some of those options, and I've got a response for you and some of the experiences that I've had along this subject. So, ladies and gentlemen, I encourage you, stay with us. We'll be right back and continue this, what I think is an exciting discussion about retirement planning for the small business owner.
Lone Star Community Radio is looking for those who are interested in hosting their own talk show. With monthly and weekly slots available on Conroe's FM 104.5, 106.1, and on irlonestar.com. Start your own podcast, create your first YouTube channel, and be on TV. Contact Lone Star Community Radio online at irlonestar.com or call the station message line at 936-647-3776.
Have a legal question? Are you a resident of Montgomery County? Call 281-645-6344 to talk to a volunteer attorney from the Woodlands Bar Association. We answer the phones on the first Monday of every month at 281-645-6344 from 5 p.m. to 8 p.m. to provide general legal information and information about legal resources to Montgomery County residents.
Listen in Mondays at noon to hear Conroe news from local nonprofits, businesses, upcoming events, Conroe Park events, news stories, and information that matters to you with your host, Margie Taylor of Taylorized PR. For more information about being a guest, visit irlonestar.com/Conroe Culture.
You are listening to the Weekly Business Hour. I'm your host, Rick Schissler. I'm a Silver Fox advisor as well as the founder of OneBestConsult.com. And we're in the midst of a conversation today with Steve Eggert. He's a financial advisor with Edward Jones, and we're talking about retirement planning for the small business owner as well as their employees. And I think it's a valuable conversation. But before we get started back on that, I want to make a comment to you. If you need to contact the station, you need to want to talk to me, please, again, send me an email, onebestconsult@gmail.com. That's the number 1bestconsult@gmail.com. If you have any thoughts for the show or just want to talk about business, please send them to us. Well, Stephen, we went to break. We just kind of got into the general subject of how it's possible to do retirement planning outside of the value of the business. You brought up some really good issues that potentially can, I don't want to say reduce the value of the business, but what we hope it'll be 20 years hence or 10 years, 30 years, whatever it is, and what we're able to pull from it to retire many times is not what we thought. One of the things I do with people, I will meet with entrepreneurs, people aspiring to go into business, and just give them an hour's time, and we'll talk about. And one of the things one of the three foundational elements I talk about is exit strategy. And a lot of times they just look at you and say, well, wait a minute, why I'm just beginning. Well, you need a simple exit plan, and they can be very simple, which I won't get into today, but then you use that to guide you. To increase your chance of getting where you want to be. But there will always be changes, maneuvers. One of the things I like about individually of doing some traditional retirement planning financially is that the risk is much lower, that I will be able to get what I expect or what I need, what I want, what my family needs. It's like you put that together with what you think you're going to cash out in the business, and you reduce your risk that you won't get where you generally want to be. And that, to me, is an important factor. Because why work in a business for 20 years, take all those risks that are associated just with being in business, and then not get the payoff at the end that you were working for? And you're right, it happens much too often. So let's talk about the retirement programs or what's available or what should be considered by the small business owner for him or herself and their employees.
Good. As I mentioned before, think about it this way. The corporate employee has that 401k, that great, like I like to call, forced savings vehicle. What does a small business owner have? The small business owner, believe it or not, again, there's 4 main types, but has that same opportunity to force savings. It's not all about tucking away my $6,000 or $7,000 per year into a traditional IRA, and that's the best I'm going to do. No. Again, whether you have or you don't have employees, there are programs available to you. If you don't have employees, there is something what we call the owner's 401k, also known as the solo 401k, solo K, if you will. That allows the business owner, who of course is wearing the same hat as the key employee or sole employee, to save amounts significantly above what the traditional IRA would allow them to, both, of course, as a portion of the profits made from the business, as well as traditional 401k-ish style income deferral, salary deferral. So, of course, there is that immediate tax benefit up front, and then, of course, there is tax-deferred growth all the way through the life of the owner K until the person beyond age 59 and a half elects, of course, to begin taking withdrawals, at which point, of course, there is typical government taxation at the ordinary income tax rate. So, beyond that, though, of course, there's also for the sole proprietor with no employees, there's also something called the SEP. It's an acronym for Simplified Employee Pension. That allows the business owner, as sole proprietor, to save amounts in an income deferral fashion below what you can within an owner K. It really has to do with what's the person's goals, and gets back to exactly what you just brought up, which of course is hey, there's no better complement to the volatility of the value of a business, and let's just face it, it is volatile, than the dollar cost averaging nature of forced savings that a SEP or an owner K allows you to do. Conversely, if your business has employees, there's 2 main plans, of course. There's the traditional 401k. That can, of course, be set up at any time under any circumstances, almost. Then there is something called, and this is a funky, long-winded acronym, it's the Savings Incentive Match Plan for Employees. Just remember the acronym's simple. It allows you, much like a SEP, to save smaller sums of money, but of course it includes the employee contribution factor, of course, and that gets to a larger discussion. Now all of a sudden we've ventured into the world of retirement savings for employees, matches, if you will, that allows us, of course, to create that sort of hook for employees that you want to bring in, and a hook, of course, to keep them with you, retain those key employees. So these 4 plans, the SEP, the Simple, the Owner K, and the 401k, they're there, very, very easy to establish. It simply takes additional assistance in the form of a financial advisor when it comes to investment selection, and typically something we call a TPA, a third-party administrator, to make sure that all paperwork, especially IRS mandated paperwork, is done, is completed, and filed on time. But there are options out there that can do exactly what you just said, allow the business owner to complement the exit value of his business with the forced savings and lower volatility of a structured, goal-oriented retirement plan.
The whole concept, as I said earlier, makes a lot of sense to me for my family as well. Mm-hmm. And I participated in the type of planning. I have a SEP, mm-hmm. and did that, not to the extent I wish I had, because the contributions you could vary each year, right. But simply because it's been a ready source of cash in and of itself, mm-hmm. and the business interest is being paid out, which is fine, and mm-hmm. I have confidence that, but don't know that I will get paid in full. One of the things that's interesting to me in working with businesses is, and I hope people hearing this will really get it, is the type of programs that you're talking about, mm-hmm. providing retirement savings for employees. These are really important, and many times I find, small businesses don't have the vision, I guess is what it is, to realize they can afford to do this. But more importantly, particularly when we have times like we have now, where it's almost impossible to hire people because of the labor market, we're in just a real funny way, that these are the kind of things that will attract not just people, but the best people. And that was my goal when I hired. I want the best people available at that time. Another thing, a health savings account, not to get off of that, but in my consulting, I had 2 different clients who did the retirement and the health savings account and provided the health insurance and whatever. They had almost no turnover. I mean, and if they made a good hire, those people were there 10, 15 years. And small business people sometimes a little nearsighted. So again, back at you, to have this type of program in place like you're talking about, one of the variables there, one of the types of programs, small business owners, it can make a huge difference in your business.
Absolutely.
And where you go with the business, and not to prolong this, but at the end, when you want to exit and you want to sell the business, either to family or to a strategic buyer or another type of buyer, your business is going to be more valuable because you've got a nucleus of great employees.
Exactly.
And it does increase the value. I assure you that, because I've been there, done that. I've worked with other people as they sold their businesses, the same thing. So you're building value on the other side of this equation. And in our 2-prong approach to retirement, I'm making my business asset more valuable.
Correct.
So
Absolutely. And you brought up a key point here, not mean in any way, shape, or form, and that is the emergence of the HSA, the health savings account. It's that that Roth-ish IRA form of triple tax savings, being able to build significant savings to funnel towards health-related and medical-related expenses in retirement in a very meaningful way that gives you such awesome tax benefit going in and coming out. That is, without question, part of this conversation. Officially on the retirement side, not necessarily, but it's becoming part of it. It's becoming part of the menu. And don't forget 529s, education funding accounts, not just for the business owner, but for the employees as well. That's something for a very, very, very low cost can be established for the business. Again, another hook. Think of the menu that people are expecting, great employees are expecting these days. What are my 401k options? What are my retirement plan savings options? What are my HSA options? What are my 529 options? And if you can roll out that menu, you're going to bring that key employee to the table and you're going to keep them there. And that's that human asset that termination value is built off of.
Yeah.
There's no doubt.
There's just no doubt about that. And the other thing I mentioned, if folks haven't noticed it, is the fact that the big businesses, you look at the ones in the news, Amazon, all these companies, immediate health benefits the second day you're there or something. I've seen these ads. I mean, not only are they raising their wage, if you will, de facto setting a level for minimum wage in this country without the government involvement as well.
Yeah.
But they have these benefits. And when you look at them and you say, gosh, if I'm trying to hire out of the same labor pool, you know, again, the biggest fear I have for small business people is they start wringing their hands and they don't pay attention. And something I mentioned in my opening question is they're reacting to things and they got to step back. And I encourage all the time, one of my main messages, think about what you're doing. Lots of information available. People like you as a resource
Yes, sir.
of how to build, right? Build a program that will allow you to hire, and once you've hired them and for the right people, they will stay. And you can encourage them.
Right.
I've got experience that's taught me that. As I mentioned, I had 2 different people I consulted with, and it was just, they were above all my other clients. And I had some outstanding business people, outstanding businesses, but these people kind of were in a class of their own as far as their employee asset.
Right.
So very interesting.
Right.
Let's shift gears just a little bit. You moved here to Montgomery County, and your office is down in what I guess they call Magnolia,
Almost.
Almost.
Still Conroe address, but right there.
right across the street from the Woodlands, right?
Exactly.
People like
Yes,
to
sir.
say that. It's interesting. Montgomery County, I think we're blessed to be here.
We are.
Regardless of our backgrounds, our abilities, our strengths, weaknesses, this is an unbelievable growth story. I grew up in Harris County, as a lot of listeners know, watched it grow and boom. But Montgomery County is Harris County 20 years ago, maybe 30. Real estate, always one of my things because that's my background as well. Commercial real estate is just popping up everywhere. It's a barometer for me. What do you see going forward? You have business clients. How are they doing? What does the future look like, regardless of what's going on a national level for your business clients here?
That's a great question. You know, I assuming, of course, we can get past the current climate in 2 to 3 minutes, which typically we can, because business owners have a growth-oriented mindset. Otherwise, what compels them to get up each and every morning? My business clients, once they can get past the daily logistical issues that are keeping them up at night, in other words, inventory, supplies, supply chain issues that are those things that are keeping them up at night. And once they can get past the little employee nuances that, of course, every business owner in good times and in bad has to deal with, they see a bright future ahead. They have been here. They have been here for the decades and have seen the decades-long growths, whether it's in the form of a roadway that's simply being expanded or another neighborhood that's going up. They see the opportunity because they see a growing tax base, they see a growing population, they see growing real estate assets, commercial, of course, and residential. They see a very solid, responsible, growing multi-tenant residential base as well throughout the county. And that says to them, I've got a customer base that is going to sustain itself and it's going to grow over time. So in the business clients that I deal with on a daily basis, the underlying theme there is sustained, long-term confidence. It's there. And honestly, I've preached to my former students as a business and finance educator for almost 20 years at the high school and community college level. Live in the path of growth. Wherever you're at, ultimately find and work your way towards the path of growth. The path of growth in this country, in my opinion, I'm 58 years old, so I'm not the oldest guy out there, it begins here in the state of Texas, in the great state of Texas. And if I were to choose a county, I'm going to choose Montgomery County. This is where it begins.
And I guess that's the reason for what the last couple of years, the city of Conroe and its size cities has been the fastest growing
Yes, sir.
In America, which is very interesting. Well, Stephen, we've pretty much run out of time in today's program. Love to have you back down the road and talk a little bit more about retirement and programs for small business owners. In the meantime, if people want to reach out to you with questions or talk to you about some programs, what's the best way for them to contact you?
Always feel free to give me a call. I love chatting with my customers and prospective customers. 936-273-3161 is my phone number at my branch. And of course, email Stephen, S-T-E-P-H-E-N, the way my mother decided to spell Steve, Eggert, E-G-G-E-R-T, at edwardjones.com. And of course, you can always track me down at edwardjones.com. Just search on Eggert, E-G-G-E-R-T, and I'll come up as the guy in Conroe.
Well, again, I can't thank you enough. You've got a lot of wisdom in there, a lot of good ideas. I think that can make a business a better, more solid, sustainable business for the business owner and their families. So, well, ladies and gentlemen, that brings us to the bottom of the hour. I hope you'll stay with us. I want to let you know that a podcast, video cast of today's show will be posted after Wednesday of this week on our website at onebestconsult.com or here at the station of Lone Star Community Radio or all over social media out there, Facebook, YouTube, etc. What's coming up in the second half of the show? I'm going to go to the mailbag, as I mentioned earlier. Got a question concerning current customer attitudes on buying and how I can overcome the negative attitude attached to making purchases in our current economy. That's an interesting question. Now, there's very complex answers, but we're going to look at some of the highlights and talk about them because I think this is a question on a lot of business owners' minds right now. and the One Best Consult Tip of the Week entitled Taking Steps to Prepare Your Business for Sale. One of the topics that's true to my heart, and we have some experts like Tom Jordan who join us from time to time to help us on that. But I've got a couple ideas I want to make sure they get out there that you might consider as you make that preparation to sell your business. So please stay with us, and we'll be right back with you.
Lone Star Community Radio is ready for the summer. If you or anyone you know is looking for a summer internship, Lone Star Community Radio is a great place to learn the radio and TV business. Contact the station at info@irlonestar.com or call the station's message line at 936-647-3776. Lone Star Community Radio offers a great opportunity to those interested in learning about the radio world.
Hey y'all, it's DJ Mike from Dan Simon, Texas. Join me Monday through Friday at 8 a.m. as I count down the top 10 Texas Red Dirt songs that are packing the dance floor. I'll be featuring local artists and the story behind the hits, shows in the area, as well as new songs that make you want to dance. It's Dance Time in Texas with DJ Mike on Lone Star Community Radio, 104.5 KCZW and 106.1 KZCC, Conroe, Texas, or online, irlonestar.com.
Second Saturday Divorce Workshop provides unbiased information to help you understand your options and move forward with your life. This divorce workshop is for you if you are contemplating divorce, in the process of divorce, already filed for divorce, or post-divorce. You will explore the emotional, legal, and financial aspects of divorce from professionals who have guided others through divorce. For more information on this divorce workshop, contact secondsaturdaywoodlands.com or call 832-375-0900.
A Lone Star Community Radio is ready for the summer. If you or anyone you know is looking for summer internship opportunities, a Lone Star Community Radio is a great place to grab the mic and be on the air. A Lone Star Community Radio offers a great opportunity to those interested in learning about the radio world all year round. Be an on-air personality, talk show producer, or YouTube, TV, podcast editor. Contact the station at info@irlonestar.com or call the station's message line at 936-647-3776.
Hey, tune in to the Bridge Podcast TX Tuesdays at 11 a.m., where we are connecting commerce with community, interviewing business owners and leaders in the community, allowing the audience to peek behind the curtain of what inspires, motivates, drives these individuals to have meaningful, positive impact in this community. For more information about the show, log into irlonestar.com/TBPTX.
Did you know there are more than 790 abused and neglected children currently in foster care in Montgomery County? Will you help make a difference? I'm Allie Stevens with Casa Child Advocates of Montgomery County. We train and support volunteers to be the voice of children in the foster care system. Kids are removed from their home because of abuse and neglect, and we need volunteers just like you to advocate for these children. To learn more about becoming an advocate, please visit CasaSpeaksForKids.com. That's CasaSpeaksForKids.com.
Lone Star Community Radio is looking for those who are interested in hosting their own talk show with monthly and weekly slots available in Conroe's FM 104.5, 106.1, and on irlonestar.com. Start your own podcast, create your first YouTube channel, and be on TV. Contact Lone Star Community Radio online at irlonestar.com or call the station message line at 936-647-3776 to take your first step into the radio world.
Welcome back. You're listening to the Weekly Business Hour. I want to make sure, as I reminded in the first half of the show, this program will be available to anyone on podcast, videocast after Wednesday of this week. Be posted so you can listen at your leisure. Or I would encourage you, if you have someone you know that might benefit, someone who's in business, thinking about business that would benefit from the program, please forward it, share it with them. this is one of the major ways we get new listeners, so I'd appreciate it. So look for us on YouTube, Facebook, on Lone Star Community Radio website, or on our own website at onebestconsult.com. I'm going to go to the mailbag as we start off this segment of the show. Justin sent in, I think, a question that's probably on most of our listeners and all small businesses, in fact, mine right now with the current economy and what's going on. And he asked, he says, my customers are getting more hesitant every day about making purchases, just in general, due to the uncertainty of the economy. How can I overcome this attitude? I think that's a great question. And again, I think it's on the minds of many people, but I'm not sure that anybody's really doing anything about it. And I think you can do something about it. I don't know how you feel about making purchases, and I'm talking about personal, for your family, for your friends, for your business. But we're inclined, one, I think, and I know I am, to do business with people we like, that we like doing business with. Yes, they need to have a good product. They need to have a fair price. Those obviously are part of the equation. But what's important to me is I really like doing business with people I like, that I feel I can trust, that I just have a good attitude about. And I think that's one of the ways to overcome some of this hesitancy just to spend money right now because of all the uncertainty out there. So I think it's important that you make sure that your product is different, that you've differentiated itself, but also your company. How can you make your company different to do business with than your competition? But in this case, is your competition just those that sell the same or similar products or provide same or similar services? No, I don't think so. I think it's competition for the dollar that your customer has, because unless they absolutely have to have your product or service, then there is going to be that degree of hesitancy, particularly on big dollar purchases, whether it be automobiles, washing machines, things that are discretionary. These are going to be under pressure, and if your company provides those type of products or services, then I think you're feeling a pinch, and it should only get worse before it gets better. So differentiate, give people a reason to do business with you. I don't know about you, but I've had feeling from time to time after I finished a business transaction and said, gosh, I wish I could do more business with those folks. They just know how to get it done and how to communicate. The whole transaction from beginning to end was a pleasure to deal with. I feel that way. Again, not sure how many do, but that company has made it as a situation where I want to do business with them, even though I don't know that I need any more of the product or the service, if you get what I'm talking about. One of the things that I have seen work very effectively to address the issue of making your company a company that folks want to do business with, that they like spending their money, if there is such a thing, and that is making your company into what I call a thank you company. Now, this is just one of many ideas that are available out there. Say thank you, the most important two words in your company, part of that culture, if you will. Thank you. You say thank you to the customers throughout your marketing. And it's not just when they buy something. It's just thank you for considering us. Thank you. That message is everywhere. It takes some training of employees, using every opportunity to thank you for service, to thank the customer for service, to thank the person who's looking for service or business or products. Think about that. If you are always saying thank you, either through your gestures, through your words, through your print and other media, all of a sudden your company is different because you're thankful to have the opportunity to take care of that person in their particular needs that your company offers. Give that some thought. I think it really works. I've seen it work. And one of the things that is part of training, and you notice this, or I notice it in restaurants, and this is kind of a sidebar, but you know, when you thank a waiter or waitress for bringing something to you today, particularly younger people say, no problem. You know, that's okay. Try to work on a better response than that. No problem. Well, you know, I hope it's not a problem. I mean, that's why I'm here, to be served and taken care of. Like, just thank them. Say, glad I could make a difference. I'm glad we had that for you. Whatever. There are a lot of positive answers beyond no problem. I think you got to be careful because that sort of takes a little bit away from what you're doing and showing that you're thankful for having that piece of business. Start with your employees, train them, take your marketing message, work on it, make it say thank you throughout, and not just those 2 words, but it feels that way. Put that message everywhere, your invoices, your countersigns, your voicemail message, your packaging, everywhere you can get the idea of thanking people for doing business with you. Get it out there. This allows you or gives you a tool. You still have to use that tool and work harder and smarter in building a relationship with your customer, so when they have to choose where and when to spend their money, your business is on the list that they turn to. This works. Again, there are other ideas that can work, but be a thankful company. Say thank you as often as you can in everything you do, and I think it'll help you maintain some of that revenue that might have just gone away. We're going to take a short break now, ladies and gentlemen. When we come back, we're going to finish out the program with my One Best Consult Tip of the Week, taking steps to prepare your business for sale. So please stay with us, and we'll be right back with you.
What is homelessness? Have you seen parents struggle to find a job without having transportation or childcare? What about the children sleeping in cars with nothing to eat? Families shouldn't have to struggle to survive, and children should not be homeless. Family Promise of Montgomery County serves the needs of homeless families and their children. Learn about ways you can help and learn about partnership opportunities at www.familypromiseofmc.org or call our day center at 936-441-8778.
A Lone Star Community Radio is Montgomery County's radio station with talk, music, weather, and traffic for Montgomery County. Have a question or comment about one of our shows? Want to know how to reach a host? Just contact the station at irlonestar.com or call in and leave a message at 936-647-3776. Get involved with your community with the Lone Star Community Radio.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. You're listening to the Weekly Business Hour. I'm Rick Schissler, and I'm your host. And again, thank you for joining us today. I really, really appreciate it. And don't forget, if you're out there and you're doing business in Montgomery County, we can use sponsors for our program. Lone Star Community Radio is a nonprofit, but we have sponsors. And I would encourage you, if you're interested in getting your business, making it part of the radio station, making it part of the Weekly Business Hour, because it's a valuable piece of information to attach your business to, then reach out to me. Just send me a quick email, rick@irlonestar.com. That's rick@irlonestar.com. I'll send you some information. It's a very cost-effective way to get your business and what you do out to the public here in Montgomery County. Well, let's jump quickly. We have a little bit of time left here today to our best consult tip of the week, taking steps to prepare your business for sale. Now, a lot of businesses are never sold, they close down. Some of that by design, unfortunately, a lot of it not by design. But I want to address myself to the people who have started a business, bought a business, and are trying to build that business, grow it according to their plan, to the day will arrive down the road, 5 years, 3 years, 10 years, 20 or more years, that they want to sell the business. This is one of the things I love to talk about, and I try to encourage people, as I mentioned earlier in the show, to start considering the day they start or buy the business. It's because so many decisions are made as you go along in the life of the business that depending on what you hope to do with the business, that you want to sell it to an outsider, you want to sell it to family or to an employee, decisions will be made differently. And I'm talking about the ones that impact the long-term health and growth and viability of the business. But there's several things that I think are important, and that anybody can do. If you're planning to sell the business at some point, first thing, you need to find buyers, because consider the market for your business. Say your business grows and it's you're doing $1 million a year, and you're making a 10-20% profit and it's consistent, and you can got 3 years of the results from an accountant that can verify that this is what happened, your business has got to be worth 4, 5, 6, 800,000, depends on the industry in. But you've got to find buyers and understand who those buyers are. Now, what I'm talking about is something that you do as you go along. Identify where your business will be saleable to who? Strategic buyers, to people who are already in the business, or someone who just wants to own a business, maybe like you did. You want to be in business for yourself. But analyze those things as you go along. So as you build the business, when you get ready to market it, then the business is where you want it to be and where that kind of buyer would want the business to be. Structure your business to maximize its value. One of the things I think it's important is that's not just a corporate legal structure, but how the business works. Maximizing profit is very, very important. There's no doubt about it. But the structure, the management, the people that work for you, it's very, very important that it is the most efficient business model, because you'll show, obviously, the best results, or you should show the best results if you utilize the most efficient, effective business model for your business. Another thing is, don't ever forget word of mouth. Whatever your business is, whether you sell to other businesses, whether you sell to consumers, whether you're a storefront on Main Street, get the word out about your business. And this is not an overnight thing. I don't even think it's a campaign. It's just part of what you do, like unlocking the front door and turning the lights on every day. Make sure people know about your business, not just your customers, but this means you've got to be involved in business activities in the area, Chamber of Commerce. There's a lot of ways to connect. Build relationships with vendors, and they will carry the word that, hey, this is a good business. And the word circulates around. And what you're doing is casting a very wide, open net, so to speak. Not that it lets the fish through, but when you come time to sell, then people will be out there somewhat connected, directly and indirectly, potential buyers of your business. Differentiate your business. We talked about that earlier. It's a Warren Buffett tool. Mr. Buffett has made lots of money for himself and others looking to buy companies that are different in their market, different in their industry. Make sure your company shows a differentiation, shows why someone will choose to do business with your company. Set up what I consider an important element, write out that selling proposition, the unique selling proposition, USP. Make sure you know what your unique selling proposition, your employees should understand it, your vendors should understand it. Make yourself different. And last but not least, and perhaps one of the hardest things, is make sure that the company can be run without you, particularly as you get close to selling the business. Make sure that you're not the asset that when you're taken off the table and you leave, that everything collapses. That's a bad place to be. You need to have folks in your management ranks and your supervisory ranks so the business can continue when you leave the business. And you're going to be asked, more likely than not, to prove that to potential buyers. So those are some top-of-the-line type tips. There are lots and lots of other details to this. People like Tom Jordan, I mentioned earlier, they get down to the nitty-gritty. They use the checklist and make sure that you comply. So if you're considering in the future selling your business, you may want to talk to them. Just drop me an email, if you will. It's onebestconsult, that's the number 1, @gmail.com. And please put a note on your calendar. Next week, 11 a.m., we'll be back here live with the Weekly Business Hour. And again, look for a copy of today's program, the Weekly Business Hour page on Facebook, YouTube, and other social media out there. If you missed something, you want to re-listen, or again, as I encouraged earlier, please share it with other business people thinking about getting in business. This is where our listeners come from. And thank you for joining us. And remember to stay in touch with what's happening in Montgomery County right here on Lone Star Community Radio. And until next week, stay engaged and always keep your focus on what's important in your business. Thanks.